Hi, this is Forrest Pacardo, and I'll report to you the Chapter 12, Leadership in Organizational Settings. We will tackle here the difference between leadership and shared leadership, people-oriented leadership, and task-oriented leadership, the transformational, transactional, and charismatic leadership as well, the elements of transformational leadership. Of course, we have the theories of leadership, the competency of effective leaders, and the leadership of men and women. First, leadership and shared leadership. Leadership is about influencing, motivating, and enabling others to contribute towards the effectiveness and success of organization. While shared leadership is the practice that expands the number of people involved in making important decisions related to organization's operation. Anyone in organization may be a leader in different ways at various times. Leadership here is plural for the shared leadership. Shared leadership flourishes the organizations where the formal leaders are willing to delegate powers and encourage employees to take initiative and risk without fear of failure. All right, next we have the people-oriented leadership and task-oriented leadership. People-oriented leadership seeks to build rapport and improve morale. When members feel that they are important and valued as the people-oriented strive for, they become more engaged in the day-to-day task and the long-term vision of the company. The disadvantage on this leadership is that the closer the leader to subordinates, the more the lines become blurred without leader needs to be a leader. On the other hand, task-oriented leadership, it focuses more on delegation and goal competition. It includes a planning, work activities, clarifying rules, and monitoring operations and performance. All right. For task-oriented leadership, although leaders excel at getting the job done, they are not renowned for their people skills. Most of the time, the task-oriented leadership is the reason for increased turnover because employees leave the company due to ongoing pressures to achieve task after task. Next is the transactional, transformational, and charismatic leadership. These are the approaches of leadership. Transactional leadership, it focuses on rewards in exchange for motivation, productivity, and effective task accomplishment, while transformational leadership focuses on influencing attitudes and assumptions of staff. For transactional and transformational leadership, we have here the differences. Here are the categories. First, source of power. For transactional leadership, it's rank, position, while for transformational leadership, it's character, competence. Another categories that we have is follower reaction. For transactional leadership, it's compliance, while for transformational leadership, it's commitment. Then for time frame, for transactional leadership, it's short term, while for transformational leadership, it's long term. Another one we have is rewards. For transactional leadership, it's pay and promotion. For transformational leadership, it's pride and self-esteem. Next is supervision. For transactional leadership, it's important, while for transformational leadership, it's less important. We have also here the counseling focus. For transactional leadership, it's evaluation, and for transformational leadership, it's development. All right, so transactional leadership improves organizational efficiency, whereas transformational leadership steers companies onto a better course of action. Transformational leadership is particularly important in organizations that require significant alignment with the external environment. Without transformational leaders, organizations will stagnate and eventually become seriously misaligned with their environment. On the other hand, charismatic leadership have a combination of charm and personal magnetism that contribute to a remarkable ability to get other people to endorse to their vision and promote it passionately. Charismatic leaders have an idealized goal that they want to achieve and a strong personal commitment to that goal. They might be transformational leaders. Their personal powers through charisma is a tool to change the behavior of the followers. They are perceived as unconditional or unconventional. They are assertive and self-confident. Next, the elements of transformational leadership. There are several disciplines of transformational leadership, but most include these four elements. First, for building commitment to the vision, it requires employee commitment. Transformational leaders build this commitment in several ways. Their words, symbols, and stories build a contagious enthusiasm that energizes people to adopt the vision as their own. In this element, leaders demonstrate a can-do attitude by enacting their vision and staying on course. Their persistence and consistency reflect an image of honesty, trust, and integrity. Another one we have, or the next, is develop a strategic vision. Transformational leaders establish a vision of the company's future state that engages employees to achieve objectives they didn't think possible. These leaders shape a strategic vision of the realistic and attractive future that bonds employees together and focuses their energy toward on superordinate organizational goal. Next, we have the third one, model of the vision. Transformational leaders does not only talk about a vision, they enact on it. They walk the talk by stepping outside the executive suite and doing things that symbolize the vision. Lastly, communicate the vision. Most important leadership quality here is being able to build and share the vision for the organization. Part of the leader's role is to set the vision for the company, to communicate the vision of staff to get their buy-in. All right, so those are about the elements of transformational leadership. Short recap, we just talked about the transactional, transformational, and charismatic leadership. So these are the leadership approach. And apart from this, there are other contingency perspective of leadership. These are Fiedler's contingency model, Hersey's Blanchard situational theory, path goal theory, and Vroom-Yatton leadership model. Among this contingency perspective of leadership, we'll talk first about the Fiedler's contingency model. This model assumes that group performance depends on leadership and situational favorableness. The situational favorableness determined by three factors. First factor here is leadership member or leader-member relation. This is a factor to which a leader is accepted and supported by the group members. Second is task structure. It is an exert to which the task is structured and defined with clear goals and procedure. Third is position power. This is the ability of the leader to control the subordinates through rewards and punishment. High levels of three factors give the most favorable situation. Low levels of least favorable. For Fiedler suggests that it may be easier for leaders to change their situation to achieve effectiveness rather than change their relationship style. Second, on contingency perspective of leadership is Hersey-Blanchard situational theory. This theory suggests that leadership style should be matched to the maturity of the subordinates. Maturity is assessed in relation to a specific task and has two parts: the psychological maturity and job maturity. For psychological maturity, it's about self-confidence, ability and readiness to accept responsibility, while for job maturity, it's about relevant skills and technical knowledge. As the subordinate maturity increases, leadership should be more relationship motivated than task motivated. Third, on the contingency perspective of leadership is path goal theory. In this theory, the performance, satisfaction, and motivation of a group can be affected by a leader in offering rewards for achievement of performance goal, clarifying paths towards this goal, and removing performance obstacles. The path goal theory specifies a leader's style or behavior that best fits the employee and work environment in order to achieve a goal. The goal here is to increase employees' motivation, empowerment, and satisfaction so they become productive members of the organization. Next, the last contingency perspective of leadership is Vroom-Yatton leadership model. This model suggests the selection of leadership style for making a decision. There are 5 decision-making styles: the autocratic 1, autocratic 2, consultative 1, consultative 2, and group 2. In autocratic 1, the first leadership style under this model, problem here is solved using the available information. For autocratic 2, there are additional information obtained from the group before the leader will make a decision. Third, for the consultative 1, in this leadership style, the leader discusses the problem to subordinates individually before making a decision. Fourth, for consultative 2, problem here is discussed with a group before deciding. Lastly, for group 2, in this leadership style, group decides upon problem with a leader simply acting as chair. The contingency perspective of leadership is based on the idea that most appropriate leadership style depends on the situation. It claims that there is no best way to organize a corporation, to lead a company, or to make decisions. Instead, the optimal course of action is contingent or dependent upon the internal and external situation. A contingent leader effectively applies their own style of leadership to the right decision. All right, we just discussed the leadership and shared leadership, people oriented and task oriented, transformational, transactional, and charismatic leadership, elements of transformational leadership, and the theories of leadership. And we'll proceed now for the competency of effective leaders and leadership for men and women. This is about for the competency of effective leaders, this is about the characteristics, abilities, values, personality traits, skills, knowledge, and aptitude. The first personality, being extrovert and conscientious, are important. As a leader, one must be outgoing, sociable, and assertive. Number two, self-concept. A leader must have a self-beliefs and positive self-evaluation about his own leadership skills and ability to achieve the objectives. Next, drive. This is about the inner motivation to pursue goals and encourage others to move forward with theirs. It's more on inner motivation than encourage others to move forward. All right, number four, integrity. High morale must be observed to judge dilemmas on the basis of sound values. A leader must has a truthfulness and tendency to translate words into deeds. Next, leadership motivation. This is about socialized power to accomplishment team or organizational goals. This contrasts with the need of a personalized power, which is the desire is to have power for the personal gain. Number, number six is the knowledge for the business. A leader, of course, must possess tacit and explicit knowledge about the company's environment to make more intuitive decisions. It is important to understand the processes from customer service to product quality to business environment and, of course, the operations. Next is the cognitive and practical intelligence. Above average cognitive ability to solve real world problems by adapting on appropriate environment. That is a requirement for being a leader. Lastly, emotional intelligence. This is what I discussed in the chapter 4. So if you're going to see that or to watch that video as well, or to read the chapter on the Word or the Microsoft Word document, that will help you to understand more about the emotional intelligence. It's about the ability to monitor your own and others' emotions and watching the personality while achieving the targets. All right, so those are the competency of effective leaders. Finally, the last part of this topic, leadership for men and women. Women are less confident and less likely to rate themselves as highly effective leaders compared to men, while men leaders are seen as decisive and powerful with a strong authoritarian style and may be expected to bulldoze through opposition and act abrasive at times. So they are most likely abrasive because that's the most personality for the men. Women in leadership role face very different expectations. People who are accustomed to the masculine dictatorial style maybe see women leaders as too soft or weak and think that men are better suited for the leadership. Female leaders tend to be more inclusive and community driven. They're more likely to lead by consensus rather than try to dictate the rules. In a business, the optimal course of action is dependent upon the internal and external situation. An effective leader applies the right style to a right situation. Leadership is an action, not a position. This is Chapter 12, Leadership in Organizational Settings. Once again, this is Forrest Pacardo. Thank you.